What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Dynasty Pros IDP show, brought to you by dynastyprosfootball.com and idpguys.org. Both places are great sources for IDP content for you out there. Make sure you visit dynastyprosfootball.com, idps.org for your latest rankings, trade values, and your starts and sits and everything. And don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube over at Dynasty Pros and subscribe to us over at IDP Guys as well. That was a mouthful, Tommy. So anyways, what's going on this Friday evening? A little late, working on 10 o'clock Eastern, but better late than never. There is a ton of news, NFL news today, offense, IDPs, tons of stuff. But first of all, man, how's your Friday treating you? I see you got you drinking a little whiskey or something over there, man. What you got going on?
The later it gets, the drunker I get. So got some Old Hickory whiskey going on with it, you know.
Oh, well.
Poured in my Incredible Hulk glass and just...
Well, that's nice. That's nice. I have got like some kind of a bug or something that is in my den here flying around, driving me absolutely crazy. Anyways.
You'll turn into Walter White over there trying to catch the fly?
No. I'm just going to be absolutely annoyed by this guy this whole episode, but who cares? Whatever. All right, so let's get started on some of this. All this news out today, man, and got a lot of games starting up in a few days, and we want to get everyone kind of on board, kind of knowing who's playing, who may not be playing. That way we can set our rosters and set our lineups accordingly. So let's start. Gabe Davis, I believe, missed the last game, but he looks like he's 100% and will play this weekend, so that's good. And I'm
very excited about that.
Yeah, I think he's going to have a very, very good game. He is a breakout player this year. So if you're a Gabe Davis owner, get him back in that lineup. He should be ready to roll this weekend. Michael Pittman practicing in full and should play. He should be back Sunday, so that's good. A lot of Pittman owners were hurting a little bit last week. I'm one of those guys.
Well, we're Matt Ryan owners because of it.
Yeah, well, luckily I picked up Ashton Doolin and played him. That's how desperate I was in one league. I wasn't very I didn't have a whole lot of depth there at wide receiver, so I gave that a shot, and I was pretty happy. I think he scored like 13 fantasy points. I'll take it all day, especially for somebody off the waiver wire.
Yep.
My boy, my guy, J.K. Dobbins, he's questionable on Sunday against New England, but I think he's going to play. I think this is the week. He's practicing in full. He's ready to roll. He can't wait. He's begging coaches every day, let me play, let me play, let me play. They just want to take it easy and be very, 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 I guess, conscious about his injury. They don't want him to push himself too hard. So they're being a little bit, what's a good word for that, Tommy?
Cautious?
Something like that, I guess you could say. I think they're just going to have to let this guy play, let him roll. I mean,
well, at this point, I'm kind of questioning J.K. Dobbins' existence. Does he actually even really exist? Is he a real person?
He is. He was out there a couple of years ago. He is a real person. But gosh, I can't wait to see him get back on the field. I don't know.
I kind of thought he got snapped away in the Thanos snap, but
oh gosh, I know, just disintegrated after gone for 5 years. The thing is, man, is I really I don't know if he plays how much I trust starting him. I mean, I can maybe flex him. I mean, if your team is hurting and you were relying on him as your RB2, then I guess you got no choice but to roll him out there. But if you have a little bit of depth, this wouldn't be a game that I'd be playing someone like Kenyon Drake or anything like that. I think that ship has sailed now once Dobbins gets back. So he could probably be droppable unless you have some deep benches and you just want to stash him for kind of a handcuff. But with Gus Edwards coming back in a few weeks as well, you got to keep that in mind.
Is this game more of a running game for Baltimore, or are they going to be throwing the ball a lot?
I think a little bit of both. They are not running the ball like they did. They
hardly going to be running backs.
What's that?
It's kind of hard to run the ball when you don't have any running backs.
It's true. Now, you have to take that into consideration, but they're throwing the ball very, very well. I mean, when you have Mark Andrews and you have, Devin Duvernay's really stepped up so far this season. And then obviously we know what we have in Rashad Bateman. And then Isaiah Likely each week is getting better and better and better. And they're featuring him a little bit more and getting him the ball. And I think Lamar's doing his thing to improve his stock and his worth. I mean, listen, last week, yeah, everybody's talking about how they lost, but listen, they were smoking Miami. Miami was getting blown out. They were whipping Miami, something awful. And then in the fourth quarter, Baltimore lost Marlon Humphrey, and Miami took full advantage of that. There was some miscommunication out there on the field, left some guys wide open, and that really, really hurt. So, and then you had a returning Marcus Peters, who's probably not at 100% and up to speed, and certainly probably not in super duper game shape. So a lot of things you got to consider there, but I think they come out and throw the ball a little bit. They may not want to rely a whole lot on JK. They want to probably get the ball in his hands. I think he may fall into the end zone at one point this weekend. If he does play, he might get a couple goal line carries and really get in, he might get you a touchdown. In fact, if he plays, I promise you, he'll get a touchdown. So, something to keep in mind. I mean, he's going to, if he plays, I think he puts up a little bit of points, but, he's going to be a flex play for me in most of my leagues where I have some depth there. So keep that in mind. Speaking of running backs, Josh Jacobs, due to illness, did not travel with the Raiders to Nashville. However, if he feels better tomorrow, they could still fly him out to Nashville, and he could suit up Sunday. So that's something to keep in mind. Josh Jacobs is, however, a lot of people's RB2, or if they kind of punted on running back, he could be RB1 for some people out there. So just keep that in mind. He's not traveling with the team, so you might want to go pick up dare I say, like Brandon Bolden or Zamir White or something off the wire. Get one of those guys just in case. Because you're going to need someone to pop in there. Speaking of the Raiders, Hunter Renfrow has been ruled out for that game against the Titans due to concussion. A lot of people have him in their lineup, so that's something you've got to definitely keep an eye out for. Get him out of your lineup, substitute, put someone in there. Another wide receiver that's not going to play in week 3 is Chris Godwin. Hamstring still not letting him play. They're playing it safe. They're not going to let him play against the Packers.
Does Tampa Bay have any wide receivers available for this game other than Cole Beasley?
They got Cole Beasley, baby.
I mean, he's literally the only one because I think Russell Gage is even questionable. And
I think, Gage is questionable, but they do have the one, the only Brashad Perriman.
Yeah, well, that's true too.
Yeah, I mean, Brashad Perriman and Cole Beasley, just like they drew it up,
Right.
Let's see, another wide receiver out there. Keenan Allen is questionable for this weekend. I know a lot of us, Allen owners are hoping he plays, and it really does look like he is going to play. He is completely on track to play, barring any kind of setback. So, if you're a Keenan Allen owner, I think you can start him this weekend. If he plays, you can start him and not worry about that. Jerry Jeudy, his shoulders and ribs are bothering him. He was he wasn't in practice all week. He got a limited practice in today, but still very much questionable to play this weekend. So Jeudy owners out there might want to keep that in mind. It's a true 50-50 there. Speaking of the Ravens a few minutes ago and Devin Duvernay, he returned to practice yesterday with a concussion. So he looks on track to play this weekend as well. So, that's good. And that's good IDP wise, because even if you have, like, say, the Baltimore Ravens defense special teams, Devin Duvernay is a nice little have there because he's a Pro Bowl returner and he's a threat to return a kickoff really at any time. So that's something nice to have if you're a Ravens defense owner. So, Tommy, any IDP news out there today?
Well, it looks like it could be a Tua season again this weekend because Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer kind could potentially be out. Hyde's still not practicing, and Poyer was limited. So
yeah. Jordan Poyer looks like he may go, but with his foot injury, I mean, how well is he going to play, especially against those two burners and Jalen Waddle and Tyreek?
If Buffalo's without their two safeties, it could be problematic.
Oh my gosh! And those two are fantastic safeties. I don't think Micah Hyde plays unless something drastically changes. I think he's going to miss this week. And Poyer, I think, is going to be limited at best if he does play. So, if you are an owner of either of the two of those guys in fantasy or in dynasty, any IDP leagues, and probably not, you're not playing them if they're. I don't see them doing a whole lot. And then keep in mind, if you do have Buffalo's defense, even though they've been phenomenal, this is definitely a week you want to try and stream another defense with if these two aren't playing. I don't even know if I'm playing that defense even with these two playing at full strength. So,
well, if these two aren't playing, then I'm definitely firing Tua up as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And your dog agrees. I heard him back there saying it as well. So, let's see here. Speaking of another safety, Quadre Diggs looked good. Coach Carroll says he looks good to play this weekend. So that's good. You know, a lot of folks out there own Diggs. So looks like you'll be able to fire him up and not worry about it. However, J.C. Jackson of the Chargers looks like he's still not ready to get on the field. He is doubtful to play this weekend. And who do they have? The Chargers. J.C. Jackson really needed to be out there because I think they had I can't remember who they were playing up against. Golly, I'm drawing a blank now, but he really needed to be out there.
Let me look at. It's a good question. Who did the Chargers have? The Chargers have Jacksonville.
Okay. Yeah, he definitely needs to be in there with that team. It's gonna be interesting to see how that shakes out. Tommy, another little piece of IDP news out of Baltimore yesterday. Jason Pierre-Paul signed.
There you go.
Ravens. Kind of a rare, weird, like in-season like signing that wasn't like a league minimum or veteran minimum. He signed for a year at $5.5 million.
Here's the big question: Is he going to be listed as a linebacker or a defensive end?
I promise you, he'll be a linebacker.
So that really hurts the value.
Yeah, he won't be I can't see him being a defensive end. I don't know if they're just. I mean, they've lost some pass rushers, and I mean, it might take him a few weeks to really get the hang of things. But right now, Odafe Owe has not really made too much of an impact. Justin Houston has been fantastic, but Owe has really just not gotten there yet. So. It's kind of weird having Pierre-Paul and friggin' Justin Houston on the outsides rushing the QB. But hey, man, if
go back about 8 years ago, I mean,
I'm telling you, yeah, if you rewind the clock 8 years ago, like you said, man, you talk about something special. So hey, better listen. A lot of these older guys that are, I mean, you're Melvin Ingrams and guys like that, man, are still playing at a high level. They're doing well. So we'll see if JPP does the same. So. Any other news out from you on IDPs? Anything sticks out to you?
Not particularly. I know there was some question on if Micah Parsons was going to be a full go for this week, but it kind of looks like he's going to be. So,
gosh, I couldn't imagine Micah Parsons not.
Well, he felt a little ill, and he tested for COVID, but he didn't test positive, which is good because now he doesn't have to quarantine. So he should be available Monday.
Well, that's good, especially if you're a Parsons owner, because, man, he has really just picked up right where he left off. I mean, the guy's leading the NFL in sacks.
He's got four through 2 weeks.
Exact, man. 2 a week. I'll take it.
Yeah.
I will take it. And I know you do because you own Parsons everywhere.
Yeah.
That is your boy.
Yeah,
that is your guy.
I mean, as you can tell.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Absolutely there. Hey, how do the necks fit in those jerseys, by the way? Are they like, I bought some of these like knockoff jerseys, and like the necks would like they had this like flap thing up here or something. It just annoyed me. They didn't lay down like this.
Now these are actually pretty nice. They're actual replica jerseys, so stitched.
Did you get off that? Is that website you recommended to me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to get you to send that to me again. I'm going to take a look at some stuff later. And by the way, if you see an IDP, I am rocking the IDP NWO shirt that you can find over at dynastyprosfootball.com. It'll take you, go to our merch right there. It'll take you a link right to it.
I'd be wearing mine, but my son Cooper wore it the other day, and I don't know where the hell it is. So,
oh gosh, well, we sold a lot of these. A lot of people picked these up at the expo when we were there last month. They were a big hit. So if you're interested in the IDP shirt, hit us up. We'll get you one. All right, so let's move on to some of our week 2 kind of heroes and studs, and we're going to talk about some of our disappointments. Then we're going to move on to some of our buys and sells and people that we're adding just in case they're still on your wire. So, Tommy, who's someone that stuck out to you this weekend? This past weekend?
Aiden Hutchinson's my hero.
Oh yes, I mean we did this. I did a show last week. The first episode we did with Gary Davenport, and he and I talked about Aiden, and we were saying don't freak out because boy, he sucked. I mean, he got half of a fantasy point last week. Well, week 1, and so people were freaking out because Trayvon Walker had a hell of a game. So it looked like Aiden Hutchinson picked up. He picked the ball up and ran with it there, sort of say. I mean, he had 6 tackles, 5 solo?
5 solo and 3 sacks, and then 2 more tackles for loss.
Oh my gosh, what a game! What a game, man! Oh God, I'm trying to think of like how many points, like how many actual fantasy points that was in our scoring system. That was 23 and a half fantasy points on the day, according to our Dynasty Pros scoring system you can find over at the website. But that's a heck of a day. I mean, you should be scoring well over 20 fantasy points if you have 3 sacks. So man, great stuff. He's questionable as well for this weekend, but he returned to practice today. I think they were just taking it easy, being a little cautious with him as well. So
yeah, I mean, I think if you're not questionable, that means you didn't play.
Yeah. It's true. Now, I'll tell you someone that stuck out to me, Gregory Rousseau. And I don't even know how to – dude, Gary Davenport, last week, he and I talked about – we ended the show with some of his sleepers for the weekend. And his defensive lineman was frigging Gregory Rousseau. He said this guy he thinks is really going to pop off and have a great game. And he sure did, man. He had 4 tackles. He had a sack. He had 2 tackles for loss. Heck of a day for him. So, man, hats off to Gary. He is the IDP godfather for a reason, man. The guy knows his stuff. So I picked up Rousseau in a couple of leagues when he said that, and I'm really, really glad that I did. I was able to take advantage of those points. Mm-hmm. So that was a guy that really stood out to me. So who else you got, man?
Well, another defensive end that I actually own in several leagues is Draymond Jones for Denver.
Mm-hmm.
6 tackles, 4 solo tackles, 2 sacks, and another tackle for a loss. He had a big game.
Gotta love that.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta love that. It was nice to see that, even though Denver, that's probably like the only bright point when it comes to Denver. But man, that was a good game for him. It was good to see that.
Yeah, I actually picked him up and Christian Wilkins up in a lot of leagues this offseason.
Yeah, Wilkins was a guy I was really, really, hyping up last week to pick up in my IDP waiver wire article. He was someone to kind of, I was considering. But, Draymond had an 18-point game, an 18-point fantasy day. So that was darn good there. I'll tell you a guy that stuck out to me, and I'm taking 0 credit for this. I'm going to go right back to Gary Davenport. He said his sleeper linebacker for the week was Frankie Louvu out of Carolina. Dude had 10 tackles, 4 of them for a loss, and he had a pass defended. Oh man, Gary is just he's like a genius, man. I mean, dude had 23 fantasy points. Gotta love it, man. And I picked him up on my waiver wire this week. So I'm hoping some other you folks out there watching, maybe grabbed him up too. So who else stands out to you, man?
Another guy I was really happy with was Julian Love, safety for the Giants. 8 tackles, all of them solo. He had a sack and 2 tackles for loss, which a sack and any tackles for loss out of a safety is pretty big time.
Yeah. I mean, it was an 18-point fantasy day for him, so I'll take that all day, especially out of that safety position.
But whenever a safety gets tackles for loss or sacks, it's just icing on the cake.
It really is, or same thing with like interceptions. I mean, those guys, you want to get those guys that are racking up tackles, but if they do get a pick or something like that, or a tackle for loss, I mean, how can you? I mean, that's what you want. And I'll tell you, these guys have really kind of taken off this year. Like safeties there have been a lot of great safeties that have started strong in these first 2 weeks. And I'll tell you, the one that sticks out to me big time is Marcus Williams of the Baltimore Ravens. He had 10 tackles, 7 of them solo. He had 2 interceptions and a couple of passes defended. And he really should have had 3 interceptions. I mean, he had a 20-point fantasy day. And, the week before week 1, he had a 17-point fantasy day. Not only is he getting these interceptions, I mean, you can't count on those, but he is racking up tackles. He is just a tackling machine. Especially with these teams passing. He's just racking up, and he is a stud. He is something special. Looks like the best free safety in the game right now. And man, he is. And this weekend they've got New England and Mac Jones. I mean, what's to say he doesn't have another pick? I mean, he's got 3 interceptions, in the first 2 weeks, which is phenomenal. So that's something to really keep a hold of and keep an eye on. However, if there's something I do want to throw out there, if the Ravens do pick up Blake Martinez, who they had in for a workout this week, I imagine that would put a big hit on the tackles for Marcus Williams. So that's something to keep in mind if you're a Marcus Williams owner. We're going to talk about him a little bit more later on.
Not necessarily. I mean, he's having a lot of tackles because teams are having to throw the ball, so safeties are obviously going to have a lot of safeties and corners on teams that get targeted a lot are going to have a lot of tackles.
Yeah, and the thing is the Ravens they were playing with a lead in both games, so these teams had to throw to really get back. He got his interceptions early in the game. His first one was early in the game against Miami. So, we'll have to see what happens. I just can't see those. If they bring in like Blake Martinez and sign him, I can't see Marcus Williams' tackle numbers, really, really substantial. I can't see him with 10 tackles a game, something like that. I just don't see it.
Well, he may not have to come up and support the run as much.
Exactly. He might be able to play center field just full time at that point. And, you're real. And then when you're thinking about free safeties, really what you're hoping is you're counting on, interceptions, those turnovers. He's special when it comes to that. But, tackles is what really, really, sets the difference, between, the good guys and the great guys. So.
Speaking of a ton of tackles, didn't Harrison Smith have 13?
Harrison's a pimp, dude. I mean, dude's he's a bad man. He's been doing it for 10 plus years. So, can't say anything about him. I mean, he's awesome. He's great. He knows how to play the game, even at his age. I mean, he's lost a step or two, but he's gained more up here. And so, what can you say? The guy's he's playing at a high level, and until he can't play any longer, I expect him to play at a high level. So
I really wonder where he'll be playing next year.
I don't know. I think he stays there. I think they probably do they rework his contract or something there. I don't know if they just cut him loose, but it's an NFL and you can't predict a doggone thing. So
he's making quite a bit for a safety. So,
hey, Shaq Barrett, made an appearance. He's back from the dead. He had, Tommy, what he finished with on this
I know,
weekend.
I know he had 2 sacks. He had 5 tackles, all of them solo, 2 sacks, and 2 more tackles for loss. So he had a big game.
That is a good game. Happy for him, man. That was my guy like a couple of years ago. Oh my Lord. He helped me win a lot of games. He was my TJ Watt before TJ Watt. So.
Right.
Preston Smith, the Green Bay Packers, had a good game. He had 7 tackles. He had 4 of them were solo. He had 2 sacks and 2 tackles for loss.
Yep.
Heck of a day for him. I'm sure that was probably close to at least 20 fantasy points as well. Depending on what kind of league you play in, he's going to be strictly a linebacker, or maybe if you're playing on sleeper, he does have defensive line eligibility. But if he does have defensive line eligibility, wow, what a great guy to have.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Anyone else stand out to you, besides your usual suspects? We're not going to sit here and talk about Nick Bosa and Micah Parsons. And stuff.
I mean, both of them had 2 sacks apiece, but I mean, they're obviously studs. Why are we going to keep mentioning them?
Yeah, we're not going to put people to sleep talking about the shit they already know.
It's obvious, Thanks, Captain Obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Leighton Vander Esch had a pretty solid game the other day.
Yeah,
that's not something you get every week from him, so I was pretty happy with that.
He looks like he's back, man. I'm really happy for him, man. He was looking like a stud when it was him and Jalen Smith, and then they just both fell off the face of the earth. But Vander Esch looks like
a lot of Vander Esch's problem is that he always has these nagging injuries.
Mm-hmm.
So he's always just kind of working through those and playing through them and playing hurt. So I mean, when he's healthy, he's a very, very good linebacker. And, I think he showed that this past weekend.
He is a very good linebacker. If he just stays healthy, man, I think he's going to produce. And right now he's doing exactly that.
All right.
So, and like I said, anybody that maybe picked him up didn't pick him up really as like a starter. So he's just kind of like the icing on top, He's like
most places he's just hanging out on the waiver wire. So
that's something to keep in mind. Tommy, let's talk about some of our disappointments from week 2. Who stood out to you that really kind of let you down?
I mean, Bradley Chubb didn't do anything. He had 0 tackles. And Bradley Chubb is most likely a guy. If you have him, you're probably starting him because you're depending on his sack production, and he got you absolutely nothing.
He did nothing. Yeah, he did nothing. He literally got you 0 points. He did after a 20-point. What was it? 20 point. Yeah, he scored over 20 fantasy points week 1.
Right.
I rolled him out there in a couple of leagues, and boy, he gave me a big old fat goose egg.
Yep.
Oh, so it looks like it's all or nothing with him.
Well, I mean,
it looks like your boy Draymond got all the work. He's the one that did it all.
Right. And with guys like him and Von Miller, and it is going to be an all or nothing type deal. Leonard Floyd's another one, just because they're either going to get you sacks or they're going to get you nothing.
Yeah. Yep. I'll tell you someone that really kind of stuck it up for me. I was hoping a little bit more out of, and I own him a lot of places, and so do you. And that's Aaron Donald. He only had a couple of tackles. He did have a fumble recovery, which kind of salvaged his day. But if he had not gotten that, you're talking a 1.5 point day without that fumble recovery. Still with that, you're expecting at least get a couple of tackles for loss,
right?
Possibly a sack or a half of a sack. He's such a stud. You come to expect that every week. And if he doesn't produce,
right. Well, he's the type of guy who can just take over a game whenever he wants to. It just seems like some games he just is just kind of out there just because, he either wants to be dominant or he just doesn't care sometimes. And you're able to tell when he wants to be dominant because he is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So who else stood out to you that, really let you down?
Azeez Al-Shaair, the linebacker for San Francisco, 1 tackle. And it wasn't even a solo tackle. It was just half a tackle.
I think a lot of guys from San Francisco kind of let us down. I mean,
Fred Warner was another one. Just kind of did nothing. It's like, I get it. They weren't really. Who was it? Who San Francisco even played? Was it Was it Seattle? Is that who they played?
I believe so. I mean, they had Chicago week 1, and I believe
right.
Yeah, they kind of let me down. Even Greenlaw, I mean,
Yeah, just kind of did nothing.
And you come to think these guys should be studs. I mean, they should be popping off like tons of tackles, racking them up every week. So let's just hope that this was just a weird little week,
Right.
weird something where none of them did well.
Right. And whenever we say disappointments, we're talking about guys who are normally studs, who you're always going to be playing for the most part. We're not talking about, a mediocre linebacker that, you got buried on your bench or is on the waiver wire. We're talking about guys who you're expecting to produce for.
Yeah, guys that we're starting every week. I mean, you're starting Fred Warner and Al Shahir. You're starting those guys. Right. Bradley Chubb right now is kind of an iffy thing. I don't know if I'm going to start him this week. I think he may get benched. But some of these guys, Aaron Donald, you're absolutely
right. We're not Trey Hendrickson, another one, didn't do anything this week. Had one tackle, one solo, and it happened to be a tackle for a loss. So he got you, at least a couple of points there, but
3 or 4 more points there.
But it was nothing substantial. It was nothing. It wasn't what you would expect from him.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Tyrann Mathieu, Honey Badger stuck out to me. He only had 3 tackles. I mean, I don't know what to really expect from him. But if I'm rolling him out there, to me, I think his name value is a lot more worth than he is in really just in fantasy leagues. When you're going out there and scoring 3 fantasy points.
But
I don't need that from any starter.
Right, but he was going against a Tom Brady-led offense who you would have thought would have been throwing the ball fairly effectively, so he would have had some tackles. He just didn't.
Yeah, I'm not a Tyrann Mathieu fan when it comes to fantasy. I don't own him anywhere, and I think anywhere I have had him, I've sold him and come out, smelling like a rose because people knew the name and they were willing to give you something for him. But man, he's just never really done a whole lot for me.
That's right.
So he's not anyone I'm ever going to own in any kind of IDP league. I mean, if he was on the waiver wire and maybe I had some depth or I maybe pick him up, but I couldn't imagine myself starting him in any scenario.
That's right.
So speaking of some of those guys, I mean, we could go on all night about some of our disappointments, but those are some of the ones that really, really stood out to us and me, that really we were expecting a lot more out of. So let's move on to some of our, now that week 2 is behind us, let's talk about some of our buys and our sells and maybe people we're adding off of the wire. You can definitely go check out dynastyprosfootball.com. Every Tuesday I put out the IDP waiver wire article. Go check out idpguys.org. They have a ton of great IDP content over there. They have their waiver wire articles as well and some of your starts and sits too. So go check out both websites for great IDP content. So one of my ads and buys or whatever you want to call them. I mean, Gregory Rousseau, who I brought up earlier, I picked him up. I was fortunate enough to pick him up this past week off the wire. I'm not in very many leagues where people owned him. So I was able to snatch him up pretty well, a good share of him. However, if there are some leagues, if you're in an IDP league and this guy is available, holy smokes, you need to go grab him. I mean, he was one of my number one grabs. I mean, one of my top grabs this week. If you go back and look at our, my IDP article, my waiver wire article, he is certainly one of the guys I would go snatch up if he's available, man. I just don't see how you can't.
Right. There was a bunch of leagues last year where I was drafting him in rookie drafts just because how great he was at Miami when he was in college. He's a special talent, and I think he's about to blow up.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 8 tackles on the year, nothing special there, but he's got 2 sacks. I mean, he's had a sack each week, and he's had a few tackles for loss, a pass defended. He's got over 25 fantasy points through the first 2 weeks.
Really good for a defensive end.
Yeah.
8 tackles for a defensive end through 2 weeks is good.
Absolutely. And I mean, he's only 22 years old. So if you're in an IDP dynasty league like you and I or and several. Oh my gosh, give
Plays,
me this
plays
guy
on a
all
really
day.
good team, so he's gonna have plenty of opportunity. He's not gonna be double teamed because they have to concentrate on everybody else on that defense.
You got Von Miller and Rousseau. Oh my gosh.
Not only that, but in the middle you have Ed Oliver. I know Ed Oliver's out this week, but they still have to concentrate on him too.
Yeah. I mean, I just think that, his matchups are just so favorable for him, and especially in that Buffalo defense, man. If this guy is available anywhere in your league, I'm grabbing him. I'm scooping him up right now.
Yeah.
I'm sure he shouldn't be available, but if he is, grab him. If you're able to go and trade for him, I would at least go to the person that probably picked him up off the waiver wire this week or last.
Not only that, but a lot of leagues with taxi squads will allow you to roster a guy on your taxi squad with 2 years or less of
like experience.
Of experience, right?
Yeah.
So even if you're not going to play him, pick him up, stash him on your taxi squad.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, pick him up. Just like he shouldn't be sitting out there. Get him now. He's a defensive end. He's worth gold.
Right.
He shouldn't be available. I don't even know if we're talking about that. They shouldn't be available in any league, but I'm just telling you, if you can go and trade for him, 22-year-old kid that's going to be a bona fide stud. I mean, they drafted him in the first round last year for a reason, and it's starting to pay off now.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, he plays on a great defense already, so he's not going to be double teamed. So there's only upside.
Absolutely, man. I completely agree. Who's someone that stood out to you as far as somebody that maybe you're buying, selling? I don't know. Let's just go with our people we're buying right now, and maybe adding if we can find them on the wire.
Sure. I mean, you mentioned him earlier, Frankie Louvu out of Carolina. I mean, how much bigger of a game does the guy have to have for you to go and pick him up? I mean, obviously you want it to be consistent, but if he's going to show that 1 week, that means he's capable of doing it. So go and pick him up. Make sure he's on your roster at least, even if you're not playing him. Make sure he's on your roster.
Oh man, if I've got him picked up, he's playing.
Right. I mean, he's a starting linebacker for a pretty solid defense. Go pick him up.
Yeah, guy racked up 23 fantasy points on Sunday, man. How can you bench that? How could you leave that on the bench? I mean, he's not going to rack up 20 points every week, but gosh, I mean, 12, 13. If you can get that out of a linebacker, man, you can't bench that. Well, unless you just got a bunch of those guys.
Right. Here's the thing: linebackers pick up a ton of tackles, and good linebackers and good defenses are going to pick up even more.
Mm-hmm.
Especially run stuffers. And he is a run stuffer. He's going to get you tackles for loss because he's going to be in that backfield terrorizing the running back all the time.
Yeah, you got to play you got to watch who they're playing, if they're playing a run heavy team.
Right.
I would bring up now in my article on Tuesday, one of my bigger pickups of the week was Miles Jack. You can't go grab him now because he's already played last night, but he had 12 tackles last night. I mean, he had a 14-point game. I mean, he is well on his way to another 100 tackle season.
Right, because Devin Bush is basically dust right now.
Yeah, and the thing is he plays in the NFC North. He's playing against, Cincinnati. They tend to throw the ball a little bit, but with the way that Burrow is getting sacked and getting hit, they may try to run the ball a little bit more. But Baltimore's going to be a fairly run heavy team once, JK and Gus Edwards get back on the field. And then obviously Cleveland's doing, Cleveland is running the ball like crazy. So the fact that Miles Jack is taking on these guys, a couple of times a year. Oh man. I mean, it's a perfect matchup for him.
Right.
He is definitely a guy to go grab. I mean, he should put up double-digit fantasy points pretty much every week.
I don't know why I just brought up Najee Harris when we were talking about Miles Jack, but
you were thinking of the Steelers.
Yeah, I was thinking the NFC North and running and all that stuff. So
he gets to tackle him in practice.
Yeah, he gets to tackle him in practice. Iron sharpens iron, right?
Exactly. Yeah, he's a fantasy practice stud.
Right.
Let's see. Who's someone else that sticks out to you? I mean, I kind of jumped the gun there and was talking about Miles Jack, which kind of sucks. You can't go grab him right now because he's already played. But
Right,
man,
right,
if he's available, you'd be crazy not to go snatch him up.
right.
Unless you're just in like a league that only starts like one position, like one lineman, one linebacker, one DB. Then, gosh, the waiver wire should be flooded with these guys. But if you play in a league like we do, where you have to start 2 of each with maybe a flex, oh, these guys are worth all the money.
There's leagues I play in where we're starting 3 of each and then 3 IDP flexes on top of it. So,
yikes.
It can get bare out there real quick. But another guy I'm picking up, I mentioned him earlier, Julian Love. He looks like he is going to be a stud for that Giants defense. I know when he was coming out of college out of Notre Dame, he was a really good player at Notre Dame. Didn't really test very well in the combine, but he's really putting it together now for the Giants, and I think he's the next really big stud there at safety.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll stick at safety because, I mean, I mentioned him earlier, but Marcus Williams of the Ravens, I'm not going to harp on him any longer. If he is available on your waiver wire for some stupid reason, he is a must grab. He is a special player that is getting tons of tackles, and he's leading the league in interceptions right now. And
it's not like he's new. I mean, he was really good in New Orleans, so
he was good. He was good in New Orleans. He was not really a fantasy starter, however, because he just really didn't get much.
Right.
He got some interceptions, but he didn't really get any tackles.
Sure.
He was kind of, I don't know. I mean, kind of like how Trayvon Diggs was last year, or,
exactly.
J.C. Jackson was last year. I mean, it was like pick or nothing. I mean, it was interception or nothing.
Yeah. I mean, it's like right now, Trayvon Diggs, you're not playing him at all because he's either going to get burnt or he's going to get an interception.
That's the reason why they're throwing. That's the reason why it's so great.
Yep, it's more bust.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're throwing at him, which is great, because he does get burnt a time or two, but he is getting thrown at, which does help him rack up some tackles and passes defended. That's the reason why I really like Trayvon Diggs a lot better than some other people, talking with some of the guys over at Fantasy and Frames and things like that. They're just like, hey, stay away from him.
If they target him, he's going to get tackles. So,
yeah, or defended passes, which in a lot of, IDP leagues like in our scoring system, that's a point. You knock down a pass, man. That's a point. So.
Right. Or when Jaron Kearse comes back, pick him up too, because he's playing over the top of Trayvon Diggs.
That guy, he's a cheap, nice IDP play. I love him. Love him.
He may be out this week. He may be out this week again, but if he's on the waiver wire, pick him up. I don't know why he would be on the waiver wire. He's one of the best safeties in the league. But
some guys chase. There's guys that have really, really stood out, like Marcus Williams, that went undrafted.
Sure.
Guys like Jonathan Owens of Houston, who's had a great, great season so far. I mean, gosh, let's see. He's, week 1, he had 14 fantasy points. Last week, he put up 8 fantasy points. I mean, right now he's averaging 11 fantasy points a game at safety, man. That's solid.
Yeah,
that's solid. People are picking up, Talanoa Hufanga out of San Francisco. And, people are grabbing Huff. I mean, he has been an absolute stud this year. So, someone may have taken and dropped, Jaron Kearse to pick up one of these guys. Sure. I mean, how many safeties are you really going to carry?
Well, especially whenever he got hurt. So, I mean,
listen, I've got him in a couple of leagues, and
he may be on the waiver wire because he got dropped when he got hurt. So
yeah, and it's crossed my mind, picking up some of these guys. Like I thought about maybe cutting him loose. I still have him, but it really crossed my mind. Maybe letting him leave, letting him walk. Trying to think. Speaking of, I mean, I really couldn't imagine Hufanga being available in any leagues, but gosh almighty, if he is available, dude, go grab him. I mean, this was so last week we were talking about him, and he had another great game this past weekend, so he's someone to grab.
Another guy who may be out there because people may have given up on him, Josh Allen. He had a pretty solid game over the weekend, and he may be starting to put it together, especially on a Jaguars team who's kind of up and coming.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how good of a game he's going to have this week, because like we said, who are they taking on? That we were they're taking on the Chargers, I believe.
Right.
Now,
and Herbert may not play.
If Herbert doesn't play, then Josh Allen, should have a pretty decent game. But if Herbert does, we'll see. Another safety I really like that is out there in a lot of waiver wires is Tracy Walker. I mean, when this guy is a solid player. When he plays, he puts up points. The end.
I think he's the leader of that defense. He, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you watched Hard Knocks. You've been seeing guys like Malcolm Rodriguez, Rodrigo. Yeah, who may become something. But Tracy Walker is the guy on that defense, I think.
He has been for years.
Right.
To be completely honest with you, he's a great player. And he's rock solid when he's playing. So he's a fantastic IDP. Plays nothing sexy, but people like to pick him up. Jaquan Brisker out of Chicago.
Yeah, Brisker's another.
And Brisker is a great young guy. I actually picked him up in several leagues. He's on my taxi squad.
Sure.
That's the thing. It kills me is, man, I think there's a league you and I are in, and I have so many safeties. I don't know what to do with them. And I mean, I've got Jaron Curse. I've got Tracy Walker and Brisker. And
you can only roster so many people. So
yeah, Jonathan Owens. I've got Hufanga. I've got the only one I didn't get was Marcus Williams because somebody bid crazy money last week or this week to get him. But yeah, I've got so many damn good safeties, and dude, I can only play like 3 tops, and I've got double that. It drives me nuts trying to figure out which ones I'm gonna start. I just have to watch those matchups.
Yeah.
Oh, anybody else that stands out to you that's a big pickup?
He's going to be owned in every league, but Brian Burns. I'm not saying go and pick him up. I'm saying go and try to add him somehow. The guy is a stud, and I would try to get in on him before he becomes a brand name.
I couldn't agree more. And I will tell you, man, if you go back and look over at dynastyprosfootball.com, if you go look at the website, I mean, I did a IDP waiver wire article every week last year. I would do the waiver wire, and I swear, I mean, I'm looking at the percentages of being owned, and he still, after having great games, was still sitting on the waiver wire in so many leagues. I wrote about him so many times last season to pick him up before it's too late. I'm telling people now, just like you're saying it, if he is available in your league, he needs to be owned. He is a stud defensive end, super young. He's having a great season, and his best years are probably still, ahead of him.
And I don't see there's any way he's available on the waiver wire. If he is, you're going to be extremely lucky. But go to the owner of him and see what it would take to get him. Because
maybe the owner that has him may not be counting on him to be a weekly starter. I mean, listen, he had an 18-point fantasy game against the Giants. I mean, he had 4 tackles, he had 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. I mean, that's the type of player he is. He's not going to rack up 2 sacks per game.
Not only that, but they may not be paying proper attention because they're more paying attention to these name brand guys like JJ Watt. But
Von Miller,
right? Pay attention to the guys who are productive, not just names. And Brian Burns is productive and about to become a household name.
Absolutely, he's not that name just yet, but he will be. Same goes for Gregory Rousseau. So if you're able to get your hands on some of these guys,
absolutely.
Those are 2. I mean, I wrote about 3 defensive linemen, Kwity Paye being another one of them. Those were my 3 top linemen to go and get your hands on this week when you were making those claims. Some other guys, Jonathan Greenard out of Houston, and you said Christian Wilkins out of Miami were a couple of nice grabs as well.
Wilkins is a stud. Wilkins is an absolute stud.
Yeah. Those were guys I mentioned in the article as well. So, guys, we're giving you a lot of nuggets here to really go. If they are available, go grab them. Go grab them before it's too late. This time next week, if they're available, they won't be available anymore after that.
Another guy, the linebacker out of Atlanta, is it Michael Williams?
Michael Walker, I believe.
Walker. Okay, yeah.
I don't know what to think there because I think he's filling in for Deion Jones. So when Deion comes back, I'm wondering that.
I think he's taking the Fuyusari Aluakon role.
Okay.
And Aluakon was the leading tackler in the NFL last year in Atlanta. So if Michael Walker is taking that role, then he is going to be a big time player in that defense.
I've seen he's available in a lot of leagues, and I was considering that, but I was thinking, I don't know, does his production take a huge hit once Deion Jones gets back? So I didn't really want to go drop someone to pick him up for, to run him out there for a couple of more weeks.
Sure.
So that's something to really.
I don't have a whole lot of faith in Deion Jones staying healthy either. So that guy's always hurt.
I think Deion Jones honestly looked like he was healthy enough to start the season. It's just he didn't get onto the practice field soon enough. It was late in the preseason, and I think they were just playing it safe and let's go ahead and let him get ready, for the next 4 weeks, and then we'll pop him out there week 5. So I think he's ready. I think he'll be good to go once he's ready to return. So that's something to really keep in mind, that those two could coexist, kind of like Bobby Wagner and Jordan Brooks did up in Seattle,
Right.
So something that I was wondering that I just wasn't sure about, and then there's this guy, who's the safety that's filling in for Cam Curl up in Washington that's doing very, very well.
Oh, geez.
Oh,
if you wouldn't have asked me, I would have remembered his name.
Yeah. And you're thinking like once Curl comes back, is this guy going to the bench? But it's really, really hard. It's Derek Forrest.
There you go, Derek Forrest.
Listening to some podcasts and watching some shows this week, and talking to Gary and Davenport, and talking to some of the guys. There's a real good reason to believe it kind of like this Deion Jones, Walker situation in Atlanta. Some people may be holding off on picking up Forrest because once Cam Curl's ready to come back, maybe Forrest goes back to the bench. But the way he's producing, how can you take him off the field?
Sure.
Honestly.
Right. And you can always move him to potentially a different spot. Safety is a little bit different than what linebacker is, though. Linebacker, you can kind of mix and match those guys. Safeties, kind of one spot or the other.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, there's just so many darn safeties that have just started off. I mean, just awesome these first 2 weeks. We got to see how these guys kind of fall off and see if the cream does rise to the top here with some of these guys. But man, I'm like, I don't know. My head's spinning so much with all these safeties. I'm like, which one do I grab? But it's been fantastic. It's really made me feel good about some of these leagues where I drafted very, very late. When I grabbed those safeties and some of those linebackers, man, to be able, it just makes me really think about like my drafts next year, not jumping the gun to go take a high, spend a high pick on someone like Derwin James,
right,
or
Jamal Adams,
Harrison Smith, some of these guys that are bona fide studs, but you can really rack up, maybe grab an extra couple of linemen. Sure. Because look at all of these guys that we're talking about that are just absolute studs right now, in the defensive backfield, as DBs, most of these guys were on the waiver wire, right, last week and this week, and some of them are even on the wire right now. So makes me really, really think, like I've been doing it for the last couple of years. I don't draft safeties and DBs hardly at all because of this. I go grab them off the wire. After our drafts are already done, I'll let some stuff sort itself out. And
especially in a league like we're in, where you don't have to fill your roster with all of your money.
Mm-hmm.
You can go into your waiver wire afterwards and pick up guys. You may as well just spend your money on guys that are going to, they're at a premium.
And when we say spend your money, and a lot of, just for the folks out there,
auction, right?
Yeah, a lot of our, our home league that you and I are, we got a couple of those that are IDP leagues that's been going for 10 plus years. They are auction leagues.
Right. Auction leagues, spending money, auction leagues. Right.
Yeah.
And then, spend your money in an auction league on the premium guys, and then go pick up, a Hafunga or Tracy Walker or, Michael Walker off the
None of these guys are getting drafted, and especially if you're just doing a snake draft like most people do, you're not drafting these guys. You go take some linemen. So, you spend that extra pick on Brian Burns, taking like a Rousseau, taking a chance on some of these defensive linemen, and then letting these weeks, kind of sort things out, because you can pick up a lot of nice DBs off the waiver wire, and this is proven. I mean, it's like fishing with dynamite right now when it comes to DBs. I mean,
that's right, because preseason you can kind of sift through the depth chart, and right now is about picking up guys that are going to be league winners for you.
And you've got zero investment in them, especially if you pick them up off the wire. Now, if you can go and make trades for some of these guys, certainly do it. We've rattled off a lot of guys that we're looking to pick up, that we're buying or trying to add via waiver wire, or if we can make that deal, because some of these guys may have grabbed them off the waiver wire, so they might be a little bit more willing to part with them.
I'll tell you another name. I mean, I'm gonna come off sounding like a homer here, but he had a big game on Sunday. Dorrance Armstrong. I mean,
he's filling in for Curse,
right?
Yeah.
No, he's a defensive end.
Oh, I was thinking of the DB that was filling in for Curse.
No. He's a defensive end, but the Cowboys rotate ends in and out, and whether or not Parsons is playing in on that play, or if he's playing back at linebacker. If he's playing back at linebacker, then Dorrance Armstrong is going to be in there, so he's going to have opportunity. I mean, he had 2 sacks. I mean, granted, it was against the Bengals, and they're ridiculously.
Dude, you and I could line up on the edge and maybe get him. One of us will get him.
Me and you could go get Joe Burrow at this point. But still, if he's going to have opportunity is king. Yeah. So if Parsons is not lining up at end, he's going to line up at linebacker, which is his somewhat natural position.
Those guys are going to grab the attention.
Right. Yep. Parsons can line up either way. It doesn't really matter. But Armstrong is going to be in there on a lot of plays, and he's going to have a lot of opportunity.
Yep. Well, cool, man. That's a lot of good nuggets there as far as people we're looking to buy, we're looking to add there. Anyone you're selling? I mean, that you're, I don't know really some guys I'm looking to sell just yet, because some of these guys we're talking about picking up off the waiver wire, maybe. Sure. If you had them for a week or something, maybe you can try and cash out and sell high on them. Is there anyone that stands out to you that you would possibly look to move?
You kind of mentioned them earlier. There's a guy like Marcus Williams. You may be able to cash out on his success. Personally, I would probably be trying to hold on to him to see if he can keep it up. But if you're not a believer and you think you can get a good value for him, then go ahead and
well, you're getting him for free.
Right.
It's not like not many people actually drafted him.
Right.
So you got him for absolutely free. So he's 100% profit if you do trade him and get someone. It is so hard for me right now not to start him. Sure. However, it's dynasty leagues, man, and we got to be businessmen, and is Marcus Williams' value any higher? Will it ever be any higher than it could be right now? I mean, if he has another interception on Sunday against the Patriots, maybe it goes up a little bit more, but man, how much more can it go up right now? Well, I mean, in our scoring system, he's the number 1 scoring defensive back that's out there, and almost, close to the number 1 scoring IDP.
And here's the thing with IDPs is, in most leagues, a lot of people don't take them seriously. So you're not going to get a whole lot of value for them anyways. Like even TJ Watt, whenever he's healthy, you're not going to get just crazy value for him, even though you really should, because he is the guy, right? Him and Micah Parsons are the guys. And but in most leagues, you're just not going to get the type of value that you're going to want from them. But if somebody comes to you for like a Trayvon Diggs and they say, listen, I really want Trayvon Diggs. I'm a big believer based off what he did last year. I'll give you a second round 2023 pick for him. 100% I'm taking it.
For who?
Trayvon Diggs.
Okay.
100%. If somebody comes to me and offers me a second round 2023 rookie pick for Trayvon Diggs, I'm taking it right now. No doubt in my mind. Because I'm not a believer that he's going to have the same type of year he had last year.
Well, I think a lot of people don't. I don't think anyone,
exactly. But for a TJ Watt or a Micah Parsons, to me, those guys are going to cost a first rounder. But most people don't want to give that.
No, not with it. It just depends on the scoring and the type of league you're in. You and I,
with our system,
yes.
If you're using our system, those guys are worth first round picks.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you and I for 10 plus years, actually for about 12 years, since 2010, you and I have used and tried a lot of different scoring systems, and we've tweaked it up over the years. And you can check out over at dynastyprosfootball.com, check out our IDP rankings. There's an article built into those, a link to an article that tells you our scoring system and why we score it that way. We explain to you in detail, why we do it. Those guys are worth the money. And man, I don't, when it comes to Micah Parsons or TJ Watt, someone's offered me a first round rookie pick. It would have to be a substantially high rookie pick. I mean, I don't know. Some dude's going to give you the over. If you're in a super flex league, no one's going to give you a top 3, top 4 pick. I mean, you're talking like,
depends on the year.
Robinson and
depends on the year. Depends on the year.
Yeah,
it depends on the year. Now, this year, 2022, I would say Micah Parsons and TJ Watt are worth a top 3 or 4 pick.
Agreed. With our scoring system, if you're doing
24, if
you're doing like IDP 1, 2, 3, that scoring system or something, then absolutely not. They don't put up enough points. But with our scoring system and our trade value charts and everything, you can kind of see how the value of a TJ Watt, a Micah Parsons, a Nick Bosa, Aaron Donald, those type of guys compare to, say, a Stephon Diggs or Najee Harris or a 2023, top 4 pick or a mid 4 pick or a back end first round pick. You can really compare all of those to really gauge a value on these defensive players. So, we encourage people, if you really are curious, go check us out over at dynastyprosfootball.com and check out those trade values. It'll help out quite a bit.
Exactly. And, in 22, in this past 2022 draft, if you were to say, who would you rather have, Micah Parsons, TJ Watt, or Kenneth Walker? Who'd you rather have?
Oh, it'd be TJ Watt.
Exactly. And Kenneth Walker was probably what, your number 2 or 3 overall pick?
Absolutely.
There you go. Now, next year, obviously Bijan's probably your number 1 guy, right?
Well, super flex, he may not be. I mean, he might be.
He may have CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, whatever.
Yep.
Jackson Smith and Jigba. Okay, fine. After those guys, though, you may be looking at TJ Watt, Micah Parsons. Who'd you rather have, that or the number 5 overall pick?
It's those IDPs, man. It's Parsons and TJ Watt all day for me. I mean, I think after maybe the 6th pick, because you got 2 stud quarterbacks, you got a couple of stud running backs. There's 4 picks there, and you definitely got 2 or 3 stud wide receivers. So you're looking at 6 to 7. Those are guys I possibly would really consider. I would probably rather have those young rookies. But probably after that 7th pick, if I've got like the 10th pick in the rookie draft and I'm able to offer that to somebody for TJ Watt or Micah Parsons,
right?
And I got a late round first or a top, a high second, and somebody takes that, dude. Oh, I love it. I'm taking it all day.
Number 1 name to watch in next year's draft for a defensive player, Will Anderson Jr. out of Alabama. That guy is the next defensive star.
Why do you say that?
Just watch him play.
Just shut up and watch TV. Watch him play.
Just shut up and watch TV. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson was invited to the Heisman ceremony last year. It should have been Will Anderson.
Interesting. I was going to ask you that just a second. I mean, you're our Devy guy, and I was wondering, would there be any, an IDP that would be worthy of a first round?
Will Anderson may be the number 1 overall pick.
I'm wondering if someone in our rookie drafts, if you've got a 10th, 11th pick in your rookie draft, if you would consider maybe Will Anderson or something there.
Absolutely. Maybe,
I think, what was it, like 2 years ago? I took Nick Bosa with the 10th pick.
You may take him before that.
Yeah. Interesting to know.
And this is a pretty loaded draft. This year and next year are pretty loaded drafts. 23 and 24 are extremely loaded in talent.
God, I can't wait to see it, man. I just, it is so weird how everyone's been hyping up this 2023 draft.
24,
like everybody
24 is more loaded, I think.
Wow. That's interesting to say, because I'll tell you what, I've racked up on a lot of 23 picks to the point where there's some leagues where I don't have the roster space to roster all the picks I'd make. So it'd be nice to maybe ship some of those off and rack up maybe a few 24 picks.
Rack up a couple 24 picks if you're able to. Those are going to be valuable because you got guys like Braylon Allen, Travion Henderson, Xavier Worthy. All those guys are coming out that year. It's going to be loaded.
Well, that's a good one. We kind of got off subject there. We was talking about some guys we're looking to sell. I mean, you kind of brought up Marcus Williams.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No. This is
I got off my tangent there, and
it's cool, man. I think all of this is valuable information. I mean, heck, if I'm watching or listening to a show, if these guys are going to stray off path, I want it to be useful information, and I'm hoping that we're providing that.
Well, I know it's an IDP show, so we kind of need to stay on task, I guess.
It doesn't matter. We don't all just play IDP. We got offense as well. So
sure.
I'm trying to think of some guys that I'm looking to maybe sell as far as my IDPs. I mean, I mentioned it earlier. Someone like Tyrann Mathieu. Right. I don't have any situation. I don't see any situation where I'm playing him, where I'm starting him in my league. And I'm thinking if you got some guy in your league that's a sucker for the name, and I can trade him and try and get like a second or, maybe a late second or a third round pick or something, I think I'd do it all day. I mean, it definitely a third round pick too, because I think Tyrann Mathieu is borderline droppable. I think he's more of a name.
Yeah.
There's so, like we were talking about this whole show, there's been so many safeties that are really stepping up and just killing it and racking up tons of fantasy points. Tyrann Mathieu is useless. So that's someone I'm looking to move and get away from.
I've got one big name for you.
Who's that?
It's a hot take. Aaron Donald.
For some reason, I knew you were about to say that. Is this a case of like the Derrick Henry and get rid of him a year early before it's a year too late?
Right, because the Rams basically had to talk him back into coming back for another year. How long is he going to be around for? How long does he want to play?
Been hanging out with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. How long is Aaron Donald wanting to play? The Rams basically had to talk him back into coming back for another year.
Well, he just talked that trash because he.
I know he wanted another contract.
Yeah,
that's fine, whatever. But when you're in it just for that and you're not in it to play, how long are you going to want to hang around?
I'm not opposed to that, man. That is a hot take. I mean, why not? I mean, you're selling high, and like
selling extremely high on the guy.
Yeah,
extremely high.
Yeah, I mean, he's a top defensive lineman. I mean, Nick Bosa, Myles Garrett, and then at that point, it's Aaron Donald. I mean, do you go to like the Chase Young owner or something and try and flip?
Absolutely, because Aaron Donald's playing, Chase Young isn't right now.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Donald is a brand name I mean, he may be the greatest defensive player outside of Lawrence Taylor.
Ooh, what about this? Aaron Donald for Aiden Hutchinson.
Woo! Ooh, buddy.
Which one are you taking? You're taking Aiden all
I'm taking Aiden Hutchinson.
Woo! Dude, I've got some Aaron Donald. I am shopping this fool tonight.
Do it. Because, again, how long is he going to play? How long does he want to play? I get it. The whole offseason may have just been all talk.
Yeah.
But where there's smoke, there's fire. And get out.
Who knows if there's going to be more drama this offseason.
Right.
You know.
The Rams are all in salary cap wise. What makes you think that he's not going to be a casualty 2 years down the line?
I got you, man. I mean, like I said, it's better to get rid of him a year early than a year late.
Get rid of him a year early, not a year late. If you get rid of him a year early, you can get value. Get rid of him a year late, you're screwed.
I'll tell you another guy I'm looking to move. I'm not looking to do it right now. We mentioned Bradley Chubb a little while ago. That's someone I'm looking to go cash out on.
Sure.
However, he put up a big goose egg. I mean, week 1, he killed it. Probably picked him up if he wasn't already owned. And then this week he let you down. I'm hoping he does like the Alex Highsmith thing, where Alex Highsmith had a hell of a week 1, didn't do much week 2, and then last night blew up and had like a 19-point fantasy game.
Sure.
However, if that guy is available, what are you doing? Go grab him, Alex Highsmith.
Yeah. He shouldn't have been available after week 1.
Nope, not at all. Not at all. But like I was getting back to Bradley Chubb, I'm hoping maybe this week he racks up another sack, puts up double-digit fantasy points, and man, I am shopping him Monday immediately. Bradley Chubb's just not been able to stay on the field and stay healthy, but when he's on the field, he produces, but I don't know if you can really count on the guy.
Doesn't produce, though. I mean, he didn't do anything this past week, and he was healthy.
Yeah, he's all or nothing, and that's how it is with a lot of edge rushers, and he's no different. I'm hoping that he really, really rocks out this weekend because I'm going to go try and cash out on him. I don't want to go through the headache of, starting him and he sucks, and then I put him on the bench and he blows up. I'm not chasing points with this guy.
Right. To me, Bradley Chubb is no different than Leonard Floyd. He just has kind of a quote unquote better pedigree.
Yeah.
But does he really?
I don't know. I mean, it was nice when he was opposite Von Miller.
That's also nice that Leonard Floyd is kind of opposite Aaron Donald.
Mm-hmm.
But there's really no difference in them.
Yep. Well, all right. Well, listen, I mean, we've been raw. I mean, we kind of gave ourselves about an hour to do this show. We're about 15 minutes past that. But before we get off here, let's give a few names who we are starting this week that maybe we haven't mentioned, because we've mentioned a lot of guys throughout this episode that we love, that we've picked up, and guys that we're looking to play. Are there any guys that stick out to you? I mean, we were talking about Marcus Williams. We were talking about Brian Burns. These guys need to be in your lineup. Kwity Paye, Gregory Rousseau. These guys need to be – you need to start them. Frankie Louvu, all these guys, if you got them, start them. Rock out with them right now. Take advantage. Before we get off here, man, is there anyone else that sticks out to you? Maybe, rattle off one player that you're starting.
One player that I'm starting here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and say, if you're not starting him, and you probably should be, based off how he's played the last couple weeks, I mentioned him earlier. Again, I'm going to come off sounding like a homer. Leighton Vander Esch.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Most leagues, he's probably available. So,
because people don't believe in him.
Right.
This is just
people don't believe in him after the last couple of years because he was hurt, playing hurt.
Yep.
Now he's healthy and playing like he's healthy.
Yep.
Leighton Vander Esch.
I'll tell you a guy that's been a huge letdown the first 2 weeks, but I have a feeling he's going to play, that he's going to kind of get back on track this week. And that is Chandler Jones.
There you go.
Chandler Jones, defensive end. I've had him in my lineup. He's sucked the first 2 weeks. He's another one of those Bradley Chubb type of guys. It's all or nothing.
nothing.
But they're
He's
taking
better,
on the Titans. And I, what happened last time Chandler Jones took on the Titans?
He wrecked them.
Week 1 last year, 5 sacks.
Yeah, he wrecked them.
Just humiliated them.
Ryan Tannehill sucks. The Titans' offensive line is garbage. I don't think Taylor Lewan's even going to play this week.
Yeah, their offensive line's pretty rough, and I think this is the week that Chandler Jones gets back on track.
Sure.
So he's certainly a guy. He's someone that you are so tempted to bench because he's pissed you off the last 2 weeks.
Right.
But I'm not going to do it. He's in my lineup. I'm going to rock out with him. I'm going to go down with the ship if I have to this weekend. But I really think he gets on track, and he could be one of those guys this week that rattles off a couple of sacks.
Sure.
So,
well, here's a tip for you. Go through the NFL schedule this week. If you're not happy with your positions, with how your positions are playing out, look at those matchups. See if anybody is on the waiver wire for you to pick up. If there's somebody on the waiver wire for a position you're not happy with that you're already rostering, then drop somebody that you're not happy with, who you haven't been happy with, pick up and just stream a position. Look at those matchups, see what is a beneficial matchup for you, and go after it. Attack it.
It's good stuff. Well, Tommy, I think that's all we've got for tonight's episode, man. I'm pretty fired up. Fantastic show. I mean, we had it jam-packed full of great knowledge, good stuff here, man. Super excited for this week and seeing how some of these players, they keep it up. If some of these guys get back on track, just can't wait to get going there. And we've had a couple people message me while we've been doing this show, and they were asking about the IDP shirt, wanting to see it again. The IDP.
It's an awesome shirt. It's an awesome shirt.
It is. And you can find that over at dynastyprosfootball.com. You just click on the merch and there it is.
Yep.
Or just message me at DynastyBobFF if you want any more information.
Sure.
I can get you hooked up with that. So
One more thing.
Go for it.
Monitor the Blake Martinez situation.
Mm-hmm.
That could become a big deal.
It could be. Hey, and we got a comment here from Matt. Matt, thanks a lot, man. Thank you so much, sir. We very much appreciate that. Good stuff. Yep. Yeah, watch the Blake Martinez stuff. I really see him. We talked about it, Nate Markham and some of the guys over at Fantasy and Frames and, Gary Davenport. We talked about him a couple of weeks ago, and I was really hoping, I was thinking Baltimore would be a good spot, but I really thought that was kind of a long shot, to be honest, but it doesn't look like it now. If he ends up in Baltimore, I think it'd be a great landing spot for him.
Here's the thing. It doesn't matter where he winds up.
Nope. He's a tackle machine.
It really doesn't. He's a tackle machine. Mm-hmm. Monitor the signing.
Pick him up.
Wherever he signs, go pick him up now. Get ahead of the game.
Yep. Go pick him up now. You got really nothing to lose. Don't let go of anything valuable. Right. Let go of some, fourth DB or something you have. Go pick him up. Go grab him. Not going to hurt.
Absolutely.
If he doesn't sign somewhere in the next couple of weeks, drop him.
Yeah.
But he will be somewhere. He's too good not to be. So,
yep.
Well, all right, man. Great show, Tommy. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Like I said, go check us out at dynastyprosfootball.com. Go check out our buddies over at idpguys.org. Be sure, if you wouldn't mind, to hit that subscribe button over at Dynasty Pros Football, our YouTube page. But for myself, for Tommy, like I said, we appreciate you checking everything out, watching this show, and we will see you next week.
Hey, old Hickory, hit us up.
Yep, and we'll see you next week on the Dynasty Pros IDP show.